anyway, congratulations on your album. It's called Autonomy. It came out, what, about a month ago or so?
Yeah, October 23rd, so like 4.5 weeks ago.
Yeah. And what's the reaction been? Because this is like your first one in quite a while. So.
Yeah, the reaction has been pretty positive so far. I mean, I've had some like bucket list press write about me, Rolling Stone and NPR.
Nice.
And yeah, it's hard. That has had me sailing pretty high for a little bit. And yeah, it's just been, I feel like it's been a pretty good response so far.
But I assume you haven't been able to perform at all.
No, I did one live stream about a week and a half ago, but not live performances aren't really a thing right now.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating. But so for folks who aren't familiar with you, this is like your first album in many years, and in between you became more of a songwriter, and then you kind of chucked that and decided this is what you wanted to do again. So tell me a little bit about the journey, if you will.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. I toured. I dabbled a little bit in the artist thing at the end of my college time, and toured the UK a little bit. So I had a little bit going, but I really just didn't have the vision that I have now. I think I just wasn't ready for it yet.
Yep.
So I went into the music publishing world in Nashville. And wrote for 2 different publishing companies for about 5 years total. So the shift went from me writing for myself to the goal pretty much being for writing for other people.
Right.
And which was cool. I had a lot of really, really neat experiences, wrote a lot of great songs. But I did get away from doing it for myself. So in the end, I had to take a little bit of a break. So anyway, now I'm back.
Very cool. So what's it like writing for other people? How does it differ for writing for yourself?
Well, I think in some ways, I didn't always go into that headspace. I think most writers are trying to write the best song that they can at any given time, but there are like pitch lists in Nashville, so you know which artists are going to be recording. So you might have certain song titles that are geared toward maybe a specific artist. But, you know, I guess at the end of the day, writing songs for other people, you just probably, for me, I just didn't go as deep and I didn't get as personal as I would writing for myself. I would probably try to keep it more general.
And you do get pretty personal on this record.
Yeah. That's one way to put it.
Were you wary of laying things out as you do before you did it?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I've had a little bit of practice putting it out there just because before recording this album, there were live shows. So I would go out there and bare my soul. But I will say it's gotten easier the more I play it out there, especially now that I was really anxious before putting the whole project out, but now that it's out there, it's not, and I see how it connects with so many different people. Yeah. It's way less scary. And I think it will be less scary in the future because now it's like people know what to expect from me and they know that I'm going to go there. And if that's their thing, then let's do it.
So how have you been able to connect with people since the album has been released, now that you're all locked down and not playing out? People just email you or text you or something or message you?
Yeah. I've gotten some emails, mostly on social media. You know, I try to answer. I mean, it's not like I'm getting millions of anything, but I try to I try to answer all the messages I get and respond to all the comments. It's been really, I was kind of nervous about that aspect before releasing this, but it's felt really authentic and genuine. And it's become a part of my day that I really, really enjoy. Like I'm excited to meet these people in person, you know?
Very cool. Now, one of the aspects of your writing is your relationship with religion, with Christianity in particular. And for a lot of people outside of the United States, they're confused by Americans' relationship with religion because they seem to be affiliated with the far right and Trump and all that stuff, and it doesn't make sense. The two and two don't go together. So,
I know.
and you have a song called "Joy of Jesus," which kind of addresses that fairly directly. So, what's been the reaction to that?
He called her a slut just because she was singing about one night love. So she looked him up, said Trump, Pence 2016, conservative Christian. You could hear him just laughing. Did your daddy not give you enough attention? You're just a whore, but Jesus is Lord. Don't you want his forgiveness?
I've had a little bit. I haven't experienced as much but it's mostly been a supportive response that I've felt. However, playing it out live in Nashville before pandemic, it was definitely you felt the tension, you know? Definitely I've had some people leave the show. I've had people just like not applaud. I've had some messages after the show. So I think that will be more in my face, like whenever I'm playing live music again, because I've mostly received positive feedback from people that it resonates with, and people that maybe don't like it have kind of stayed silent. Maybe because you know, in me presenting the song, on my social media, I went deep into the story behind. So I think that maybe when people realize I wrote this based on actual people's experiences,
right,
you're less likely to get this, like, you know, angry reaction. Because I'm telling a story, I'm asking a question, you know, it's not saying, you know, I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. And speaking of storytelling, I mean, that's kind of part of what you're doing in these songs, like a song like Pretty, where you're talking about kind of, you know, going back and reading over your fifth grade Christmas pageant notes and things, but in kind of putting the listener in the place of the thing. So how do you go about doing that?
It was my fifth grade Christmas pageant. I went up to read my passage. Got the giggles, the kind that you can't stop. I crept back to my seat, face as red as boys are mean. He said, "Hey, fat girl, you ruined everything."
Ooh, well, that song, I got the idea whenever I was reading the journal, and almost every entry said, "Will I ever be pretty?" And I remember thinking, well, I remember laughing at the time, but then it kind of sank in, and you know, there were some specific memories that I had attached to my childhood that were particularly painful. And at that point I knew, well, I've got to write a song about this to process it. So that's kind of, I just had to like get it all out there.
Right. And I'm wondering if that's the same now. And I mean, it's been a long time since I've been in fifth grade, so I'm just wondering if things have changed at all. If people are more aware of those kind of scenarios with what kids go through in school these days.
Yeah, I would think that they are, and I talk about this with my friends a lot. We're so glad that social media wasn't a thing at that age. I think on some levels there's more awareness, which is good, but on another level, there is social media, so that's a whole other added pressure and vehicle for cruelty. And you know, kids can be mean, and I've been mean, you know, like no one is immune to that. So yeah, it's just one of those things.
Now, when you made the album, you have a producer, Teddy Morgan, is that right, who you worked with?
Yes.
And I assume you recorded it in Nashville. So tell me a bit about what the sessions were like and when you recorded it. I assume it was before lockdown.
Oh, yes. I've had it recorded. Yes. I've had it recorded for quite a while. We spent, and we took our time. Teddy had So I recorded it in this studio called Creative Workshop in the Berry Hill neighborhood of Nashville. It's kind of like its own little Music Row area now.
Right.
But Teddy has a little studio. It has one of the, the typical big recording studios on the first floor, but he had like his own studio on the second floor. So we did most of the work there, unless we were tracking drums. But we just spent a couple hours a day, maybe 2 or 3 days a week for probably a period of 7 or 8 months, where we would come in, try some things, and then just let the songs tell us where they needed to go. We definitely took our time with it, just in figuring out the sound. And I knew way more what I didn't want it to be than what I did want it to be. So
Right.
kind of like figuring it out as we went. But we definitely took our time, and it was so rewarding. And like at the end of the day, I made the record that I wanted to make.
That's pretty cool. Now, another song I wanted to touch on was Little White Lie, because it's kind of
Yeah.
it's an anti-romantic song, if anything else.
I said it was the happiest day of my life. Then I slipped into the Sunday school room and cried. I was praying they were happy tears and I'd be alright. There's nothing wrong with a little white light.
So,
Yeah. So that's my one like explicitly relationship song. Well, I guess that and Mr. Wonderful, but I used to write whenever I had publishing deals. I wrote a ton of breakup songs.
Right.
So I guess my album couldn't have. I couldn't go without having one of those. But
right.
yeah, that Little White Lie I had the concept for while I still had a publishing deal, but I just knew I wasn't in the headspace. I knew I wanted to write it by myself, and I knew I wasn't in the headspace to write it at that point. So I held on to the idea and just kind of put my observations about marriage and my anxieties about marriage, and just tried to tell a story. And I think it worked because a lot of people think that was my story of, getting divorced. I haven't even been married,
Lucky you. Oh boy. Well, yeah, that is a good sign. And it sounds like you're finding your audience. Like it's a totally different audience than probably what you had earlier. And it's just a matter of making those connections with these people. So with that in mind, what have you got planned next? Are you thinking along those lines?
Yeah, I'm hoping live shows become a thing again next year, which it's looking like they will here.
Right.
So I'm hoping to snag an opening slot on some tours and tour this record.
Right.
And, I'm thinking on concepts for my next project. I don't anticipate that being next year. I think I want to, I still need to put this one out there and
Right.
take my time with that. But yeah, I would love to open some shows, build my audience, and then work on and get started on writing the next one.
Well, did you make any contacts when you were writing songs for other people that maybe you can hit on them now and say, hey, I'm here?
I know, right? That's an interesting thing. I definitely have heard from a lot of people from my previous life,
Right.
but I am someone who doesn't really like to I don't really like to pressure people to
Sure.
do something one way or the other. So I'm just, not to say that I have my team, and I feel like I have a good team around me that's working hard for me. So
That's all.
I don't know, I'm not a very pushy person. Maybe I should become more. So I don't know.
Yeah, you never know. And it's almost Thanksgiving.
Yes.
What's it going to be like?
Weird. Yeah, it's going to be really small for me. I think my parents are coming down to Nashville, and we're just going to have a really, really small gathering. By that, I mean me and my parents. So,
Right. That's pretty small.
yeah. So I think that's all I've got planned.
Is that what most people are doing? Have they kind of decided that they have to downsize this year?
I think that's what people should be doing. I've heard about, I was talking with someone the other day, they're having like a party, they're having like 15 people come over. So I think a lot of people are paring down, and then some people are still, they got to have
part
their
of the
big
problem,
gathering.
isn't it?
That's yeah, exactly. I don't really have to make that choice because my family gatherings have always been like 6 or less people. So
Right.
yeah.
Very convenient. Yeah, well, you have to come down to New Zealand at some point when things open up. At this
Yes.
point, if somebody comes in, they have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks before they can get out and do their thing. So it's a little awkward, but
Yeah. Well, once you make that, I mean, if you're going to New Zealand, you're dedicated, like you have a long flight. So it's like, you know what, I'll take 2 weeks to do that. But maybe by the time I get there, that won't have to happen, but we'll
yes,
see.
hopefully,
I'll do whatever it takes.
because we have a great local live scene here, thank goodness, but we'd like to have some international artists coming around again soon. So hopefully that'll happen. But anyway, thank you for talking to me, and good luck with the album. Hopefully
Thank you.
it does everything you want it to do, and we'll get to see you sometime soon.
I hope so too. All right. Have a good rest of your day.
And have a nice Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.